Welcome to Let's Get Creative with Sam, the podcast. I'm Sam Rawlings and I'm a children's creative counsellor. That means I help kids unlock their imaginations and explore the amazing world of creativity. But being creative can also be a great way to take care of our minds and feelings, which is super important. In this podcast, we'll be doing all sorts of fun things. We'll be sharing creative tips and tricks that can help us feel good, interviewing other awesome creative folks in the industry who use creativity for mental well-being, and maybe even doing some creative challenges together that can help us express ourselves. So buckle up, get ready to unleash your creativity and explore how it can help us feel our best, and let's have some fun. Hi, and welcome to another podcast with me, Sam, who is a children's creative counsellor. I'm tripping over my words tonight, and I'm here with my next guest, and she is an amazing woman, and we've had to kind of go through this a few times, but we are here. Let's do it, Keeley. Let's do take 3.
Yeah, hello. Thank you so much for having me, Sam. I think that the problem is we chat so much before we even start recording that by the time we get to it, we're just giggling, and that's the problem. But we're all professionals here. We're all good at what we do, and we will give you some golden nuggets of information along the way.
Absolutely. So do you want to introduce yourself, Keeley?
So I'm Keeley Reading. I'm actually affectionately known as the farming mother. So we get it done with mud, meltdowns, and everything else in between on the farm. The farming mother is, I'm based down here in Cornwall on a farm with my 3 children, and we do so much here. We've got all our support work for SEND children and their families, from alternative education, therapy, animal therapy and support, to working with local authorities and schools, delivering alternative education and provisions of ASDAN courses, and the therapy and support work, not just for the children, but for the parents too.
That sounds amazing. And I think the thing that come out for me was when you first started with the word mud. I was like, okay, this is my language. This is, like being outside doing my creative trails with young people on a therapeutic level. I was just like, tell me more.
Mud at the minute. We are in the wettest winter I have ever seen. So as you can tell, I am not Cornish. The accent is northern. I grew up in Leeds and then lived in Skipton, North Yorkshire for a number of years and started farming up there. And then moved to Cornwall, which is supposed to be sunshine, beaches, beautiful sea, and winter is just wet. It's not cold, it's just wet. And we're down in the valley, so we take on everyone's water. It's a lot of mud, but what better way to splash in puddles? My little girl absolutely adores Peppa Pig. Mads is, she has additional needs. She's got autism, she's got sensory processing, ADHD, picker, anything that you can think of is thrown into the mix with Mads. And she loves Peppa Pig. So she's absolutely obsessed with Peppa Pig. So we spend our day splashing in the stream and muddy puddles, and everyone thinks an absolute blast because they can come here and get blathered in mud and play in the stream. But yeah, we just hose pipe them off if need be.
I mean, if that... So... Is she school age, Keeley? Is she nursery age?
Yeah, so Mads, we call her Mads for short because her actual name is Madison Genevieve, which is a bit of a mouthful. And I hate anyone shortening it to Maddie. It drives me crackers, which is why I double-barreled it. So we call her Mads for short. She is 6. She was 6 at Christmas, and she is alternatively educated. So we will say that because we're going through the Battle of the Tribunal case, which is at the end of the month. For them to fund her alternative education. At the moment, I fund that myself, and she attends sessions, as do many of the children funded by the local authority and schools or their parents to attend sessions with us. And I'm doing what I do best and battling the local authorities to provide education under Section 19 of failure to provide education. For my own daughter, just like I do for the rest of the families that I work with when I advise and support them. Mads' needs cannot be met within a school setting. I am, obviously, like yourself, have worked with trauma with children that have not had their needs met. And a lot of the work I do is with children who haven't had their needs met within schools. We tried nursery with Madison Genevieve, and I am very particular of where I put her, and I thought I'd found a perfect nursery, and without extra support through the EHCP, they couldn't provide the support she needed. Being non-verbal also adds that little bit of an element of I've got to take what they're saying as gospel of what's happened, rather than, it's like when a toddler comes home and goes, I didn't have this, or I didn't do that. That nice little wittery content that comes from them. That he said, she said, we didn't have any of that. So I had to take what they were saying, and there was things that was red flagging with me, shall we say, of safeguarding concerns. So I pulled her out. We was already in the process of the EHCP for her, which is the Education Healthcare Plan. Which you have to apply for, then battle the LA, which is always a battle to try and get the support that you need, which any SEND parent will know is just a constant uphill battle of advocacy, proving the support that your child needs, proving what you're going through daily. And we finally got them to agree to do an assessment, had to go through tribunal, they assessed, then had to go through tribunal because I was told I was given the golden ticket. She didn't have to see if she failed at a mainstream school to get a specialist place. They gave me a specialist place, but without doing a occupational therapy report. Which, doing my job, I know that has to be considered and has to be put in place before they say what she needs and support she needs. Because obviously, although the local authority, I'm a registered alternative provider for them, because it was my own daughter, my reports were not good enough. Therefore, we had to outsource reports, and even the provisional reports of her having sessions here wasn't good enough because I'm still her mum. And they wouldn't take what I was saying on board. They told me I had the golden ticket, I'd been offered a specialist place. Most parents want this. Most parents don't sit there watching hundreds of kids come through their doors a month where settings have failed them. So I wasn't going to allow my daughter to be failed in a setting that couldn't meet need. And we have now finally got our hearing, which is set for the end of February. And the local authority has gone to the school for a second time to consult, after trying to force me to take a place in September for her to enrol. So she has missed reception and year one of education, with no support from them because I wouldn't enrol her in the specialist school. I told them to consult the OT report, which they failed to do, and they are now saying, after actually reading the report, that they cannot meet need without implementing an extra £89,000 a year of support on top of the specialist funding and outsourcing 2 more sessions. The irony. Therefore, I think you will call that I told you so. And that's the problem. Many SEND parents completely are pushed from pillar to post within asking for support, reaching out for support, for waiting lists, for reports, for assessment. And when it comes to saying my child is struggling within a setting, there is no, this is what your child should be getting and this is how we're going to support you. It is parents researching, speaking to other parents with lived experience and going, how do I get support? My child's struggling with this, this and this, and it's been amplified or made worse by X, Y and Z of being forced into these settings or without support. You then got to battle to ask for support for an education health plan, for things to be put in place, and even simple things of asking for support. But then it's not written smart. So we always say an EHCP has to be written smart. So it has to be written that they will receive this amount of support for this many times a week for this amount of time. If it's not written like that, then the school or the setting can just receive funding, and as long as they've gone, yeah, we're providing with them 1 OT session for the whole of the term, it's provided. And this is the problem. Local authorities are battling against parents and spending thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds a year to battle parents, and they lose 99% of the cases at tribunal. Why are they wasting the money?
Well, yeah.
Why is that money just not being put into supporting the children in the first instance, reducing waiting times, employing more occupational therapists, more speech and language, more trained TAs to support these children, rather than, okay, we'll see you in court. And this is the point that I'm proving with Madison Genevieve. I could quite have easily just gone, I do not need this battle. I provide her education like I do with the rest of the children that I work with anyway, but I am doing it to prove a point. Madison Genevieve still doesn't have a formal diagnosis because we're still on the waiting list, because when we moved to Cornwall we had to start the process again. It doesn't transfer. So we had to restart her autism assessment, ADHD assessments, her speech and language and OT assessments again. We had to start her EHCP assessments again and be put back on the waiting list. And we're now nearly 4 years in of being at Cornwall and she still doesn't have her formal diagnosis yet. They offered her a specialist setting without having to try mainstream. They tell parents, you cannot do that. You have to try mainstream first. Why? Why does a child have to be put through that trauma and failed within a setting to prove it doesn't work? So this is why as much as it pains me to do it, and it's a lot of hard work, this is what I support parents through. So why shouldn't I endure this pain to go through it, to show them and prove a point that I've been through it, and I'm proving a point that you do not need a diagnosis to get an EHCP. You do not need a diagnosis to get DLA. And this is what parents are told. They're told this misinformation that they cannot get support until they've done X, Y, and Z or got X, Y, and Z. And it's all BS in the nicest possible sense. And because parents are already, I referred to this, someone else brought this up on an interview last night, the analogy of the stream. We've got a stream that runs through the farm and we are at the bottom of the valley, and everyone's farm water and the streams and the highways water all feeds down the road, and it's supposed to go off into culverts, which then goes onto our farm. Once it leaves the road, it's no longer a council problem, it's no longer a highways problem. Once it leaves the farms and goes onto the road, it's no longer the other farm's problem. So when it all lands at my farm at the bottom, and our channel that goes through our culvert is then flooded and the floodplain's flooded, it's a me problem. Everyone else's stuff is all filtered into us and it's a me problem. And what happens is, we had to dig all these channels out. But every time the flooding happens and every time we have so much rain, which we've experienced again this year, all the silt and the debris that's washed off everyone else's farms and the road all comes down, filters through our stream and gets stuck. And I have to stand there with a big stick and a rod pulling it all out because it backs up and floods over the 6-foot ditch and round and floods all my drive out. That is what a SEND parent is doing every single day. They are going through life doing all the stuff that they have to do, plus all the caregiving needs, plus all the extra challenges and support of meltdowns, research because they don't have a diagnosis for the child, so they have no information. Going, okay, my child does this, this and this. What can I put in place to support them because no one else is telling me? They're speaking to other parents on forums. They're going to other groups. They're researching on Google at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, like, why does my child only sleep for 2 hours a night? What can I implement? Then they learn about the nervous system. Okay, so then they open another can of worms of how can I help and support their nervous system. And this is all the stuff that's piling on the top that of an already flooded stream, and they're having to move everything off so that they can just get to that support that their child needs to get through the day. Not even forgetting that they need support to get through the day, because if you're surviving on 2 hours sleep, I know wholeheartedly, after a week you are exhausted, you're at your limits. And if you're having to homeschool a child, or you're having to go to a school to pick up a child every day because the school are saying we can't manage, yet the support's still not in place, you're exhausted, you've had enough. Yet the LA is still battling parents the NHS is still delaying and not helping and supporting parents. And who's struggling here? The parents and the child, yet the LA still want to go to court instead of just going, do you know what? Yes, they don't need to be in a specialist school, but we can give the school X, Y, and Z, which will support them and help them. And that child's in education, or that child would be better supported if we work in collaboration with alternative provisions. They need more outdoor learning, they need more sensory support, they need more this. Right, okay, we don't have them facilities here, but this alternative provision that we've already got on our books down the road can support them for 2 days a week for 2 hours. How much happier is the child? The amount of schools that I am pushing at the moment and I'm working with that have gone, actually, we don't have these provisions, can you provide it? We'll take it out of their budget. Look at the difference. The child's accessing school, they're more supported, more regulated, they can access the lessons that they can access because they're accessing this support, and we're working collaboratively, and more children are in education, rather than children are melting down, overwhelmed, and are not accessing anything. And that's the thing, it's, you just want to scream sometimes, because as a parent and as a professional, I see it from both sides, and
Yeah.
you're just like, we need the money to support the children and support the parents, and as a parent, you're just throwing your hands up in the air, just going, just help me, just tell me what I need to do for you to give me help so I can support my child. The amount of STEM parents that have to give up work because their child isn't in school or they have to go pick them up is ridiculous. Not every STEM parent wants to homeschool. They will quite happily have their child in school if they could, but they do not want to be having their child dragged off them at the gate, or a child in tears at home because they are so overwhelmed and dysregulated that you feel awful that you're pushing your child into that situation. That's trauma. And you and I both know that trauma doesn't just go away. That's something
Nope.
that you're dealing with 20, 30 years down the line as well,
Yep.
because it's repeated patterns that keep coming up every time that child meets that same situation.
Absolutely. So I'm feeling it all in my body just listening to you, because I can't even begin to think what you've been going through, Keeley, for years, and just trying to get the right support for, obviously, for Mads and for you as a family, but also for all the other families that you support as well. And I see you as a huge advocate for so many, parents. But if I kind of just put your professional side, and I know you're really passionate, because that's what here, that passion just comes across, and that real frustration, and I'm not getting anywhere. How have you felt as a mum? I know you mentioned about being exhausted, but how have you felt as a mum going through this process and having all these doors slammed in your face and going round in circles and just not being able to get anywhere?
It's hard, and it's hard not just for me and how I feel that she's being failed and we're being failed. It's hard knowing that they're writing off her potential
Yeah.
due to the barriers that she's facing. And don't get me wrong, there's an element of, if the right support's in place, how far can your child go?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the same as anything. You've got children that are in government education, you've got children that are in private education. If they have more tailored support and smaller class sizes like they do in private school, and more opportunities, they can further advance their education. But that's not to say that a child that's in a government funded school couldn't have the same job opportunities as a child that's in
Absolutely.
a private school.
Yeah.
But the problem you've got is you've then got children that are in government funded mainstream schools that are then being isolated and not given those opportunities. And as a parent, it's heartbreaking knowing that you cannot take away that pain or that suffering for your child. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things, especially with Mads being non-verbal, she doesn't have her own voice. She can't say, these are the barriers I'm facing. And it's hard to watch much to her not to be able to demonstrate that. And for me, as a parent, all you want to do is take away the pain for your child. All you want to do is be able to give them every opportunity, and you are constantly battling, advocating, but it's the why do I bother? Why am I screaming into the abyss every single day trying to get that support when no one's listening? But you are mentally and emotionally drained. You cry yourself to sleep because you are so exhausted from battling and advocating and asking for help that you just think, why am I bothering? And that's why so many parents decide to just go, right, do you know what? I'm just off rolling and I'm just going to home educate because it's easier for me to just fund it myself, whether it skints me or we have to just cut back on other things we're doing, downgrade our house, whatever, because it's not worth the battle. It's not worth the time and energy that I have to put into focusing on battling to get the support, rather than that time and energy I can be putting into my child. And that's one thing that with Mads is I was a bit like, I could be just putting this energy into Mad. I don't need to be reviewing court cases. I don't need to be reviewing the EHCP. I've just had a load of tribunal documents come through now, and the case is in 2 weeks tomorrow. And you're like, do I really need to be doing that, or can we be playing and doing some shape sorting or something else? But I know that this EHCP and this path takes her through till she's 25, and we'll touch on a moment about my health. I'm not always going to be around, and the reason I'm trying to make sure this support's put in place for her is because if I'm not around, who else is going to advocate and put this support in place for her?
Yeah.
And you are physically drained and exhausted, and it takes so much out of you. You have so many spoons a day, and you have sometimes drained them by 7 o'clock in the morning, and you are still having to keep giving and pushing and explaining yourself and repeating yourself and asking for help. And 9 times out of 10, the only help comes from other parents that actually understand what you're going through, and community organisations like ours that are bridging that gap between the parents and the government funded services, so whether it's schools, NHS or anything else, that are actually doing the work without a waiting list that you can message at 9 o'clock when something goes wrong. Not, we stopped working at 4 o'clock, please call us back tomorrow. We will signpost you to X, Y and Z.
Yep.
If you are at breaking point and you are needing help, you do not need to be signposted somewhere else, or please contact us at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. You're like, what is that when you're sat crying? I stood crying in Asda yesterday on the free from foods aisle. I've got a lot going on with work, with Mads, with her EHCP stuff, and she was having one of them days. And I was questioning, am I enough? Am I delivering her enough education? Am I giving all the parents I'm working with enough support? And I've had a load of children come through on sessions that have got allergies, and I'm trying to mentally go through in my head how I needed to adjust recipes to be gluten-free. And I'm like, so what do I need to switch out of this to do this? And I'm trying to make a list, and I wanted to make a list before I went to Asda, but I never got round to it. And at the minute, Mads is now at this size where she's too big for the trolley really, but trying to hold on to where she bolts around Asda and I can't keep up anymore. So she just got out of the car, she decided to have an epic meltdown because I didn't want her to take 15 different things into Asda that she was going to throw around the store and I had to go around picking up. So I finally managed to get her into a trolley. We get into Asda. I had to pick up some of my medication from the pharmacist while I was there, because if I order it to the Asda pharmacist, you can guarantee at least once a week I'm going to Asda, so I know that I'll pick it up and I won't forget. And she launched one of her toys, and this one went, that just hit me. And I'm like, I can only catch so many things in one go. She had a coat hanger, of all things, a tennis ball, a little wooden fishing hut thing for one of her letter games, and a letter B and a number 5. of her light sensory box.
Very random.
Which is the most random things. So while we're walking around, I'm trying to do the letters and colours, and we're going through at the minute. I've taught her the word bees buzz, so now she gets very eccentric about this. And she launched this thing, and the woman's it's just hit me. I'm like, I'm really sorry. And I'm like, Mads, please don't do that. You shouldn't be letting her throw it. I'm like, she's got no understanding that she's offending you, throwing you at that. But you can't just say that to someone. You've literally just got to go, I'm really sorry, Mads, please don't do that. And she has no understanding that I'm saying, Mads, please don't do that. She's just like, I don't really care what you're saying to me. But I will go into full Mr. Tumble mode where I'm like, let's do this, and talking around Asda. Next thing, we get to the aisle that's got the peppers and the apples and everything else on. She uses her coat hanger to hook another lady's trolley. I didn't see, and as I'm walking along, I'm obviously pulling this lady's trolley who's trying to put her shopping into her trolley and completely misses her trolley because I'm pulling it down the aisle. Mads thinks this is hilarious and is laughing. And the lady's a bit miffed, so I had to go give her trolley back. Next thing, she had a tennis ball as well. The tennis ball flies over the aisle and lands in the apples next to the person that's stacking the apples.
I'm trying not to laugh. I can just imagine it all.
But this is regular occurrence. This is bad.
That's not funny that it's regular occurrence. It just obviously my brain went into child mode, and I could just she's having fun. Yeah, she's playing.
The thing is, you get to a point as a send parent that you either let it bother you and you feel all the judgment from everyone watching you, or you literally just think, do you know what? There is worse things in life than this. Not hurting anybody. And that is where other than throwing a little wooden stick at someone, then fair enough. But you get to a point where you just put yourself in a bubble when you go into things like this, and just know it is not going to go plain sailing. If you have to go into Asda, it is not going plain sailing. Or any supermarket. We won't. We've been in Sainsbury's and it's happened as well on Waitrose. You get the different kind of judgment in Waitrose. I can imagine. But you just put yourself. If I took on board the looks and the judgment, I would be sat crying constantly. So then we finally get to. I was getting something out of the fridge, and she hooked her legs over this gentleman's trolley, who thought it was absolutely hilarious because he's now got grown-up children, as he's telling me. And every time I took one of her legs off the trolley, she put the other leg back over. Then I had a gentleman come up to me and go, "Where's your shoes?" to her. I'm like, "Oh, sorry, she won't talk back to you. She's non-verbal." "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Oh, she doesn't talk." Then he started explaining. He's going, "Well, she should still have her shoes on." I'm like, I'm lucky if I can get her to wear shoes 90% of the time. So she's in a trolley. It doesn't really matter. To then... she has started to have an epic meltdown because I wouldn't let her throw the bread off the shelf. And I'm talking full on. She's screaming. She's launching everything everywhere. She doesn't want to hold anything, but she doesn't want me to keep hold of it. And I'm just stood there trying to figure out whether this red pesto pasta is gluten-free or not. And you're at the point where you're trying to check a recipe on your phone of what I needed for these stuffed peppers. And I just stand there crying. And this woman huffs that she's got to go around it. And you're just like, why? Just why? Just carry on with your shopping. It's a moment in your time. This is what I deal with daily. Off you go. And that's the problem. Send parents deal with everything every moment of the day. Even if your child's in school, the amount of staff that they have around them to help them, and it's just 9 till 3. It's not... Yeah. Mads isn't in education. She is with me 24/7. And
does she sleep on a night, Keeley?
No. So I am lucky if I get 5 hours out of Mad on a good week per night. And she has to fall asleep wherever I am. So whether it's on the sofa, whether it's in my bed, and then has to be carried to bed. Now, she's far too big for me to do that. Luckily, her dad does it. And she's even getting a bit too big that he's like my back. And it's at the point now, some nights it's just like I'll just stay sleeping on the sofa with her because I just can't carry her to bed. Most of the time you're looking at least 11:30 and she's up by 4, 5 o'clock at the latest. A lot of the time she won't fall asleep until 2:30, 3. Sometimes it can be 5:30 in the morning and she's up at 6:15. How anyone can survive on 45 minutes sleep for at least 4 or 5 nights in a week, I have no idea, because I literally run on coffee fumes. And she keeps going. And I'm talking Tasmanian devil energy. She's running around the house like it's soft play, screeching at, I know what she's trying to say, and she's singing Rain, Rain, Go Away at 4:15 in the morning, and you're like, how?
Yeah.
And it's not like you can doze off, because she'll either come and slap you around the face to wake you back up, or she's trying to pull your eyeballs open, or she can't be left alone, because she will literally be in every room, trash everything, and she's got no awareness of danger. So even putting knives up on the top of your top cupboards, she'd find a chair and drag it up. She's very intelligent with certain things like that. She will drag a chair to be able to climb on a shelf, to climb onto another shelf to get something off the top shelf, if she's seen you put that there and she wants it.
Yeah.
And she's very resourceful. Like today, I turned my back for a second to put a box on the wall outside, and she was gone. Luckily, we've got cameras around the farm, and I'm trying to figure out which one's pinged to where she's gone. And she's on the woodland, running down the woodland to go to the stream, and I'd said stop, and I have to stand there and shout, "Stop, says Mr. Bull!" because she only communicates through Peppa Pig phrases. This is what I mean by my Mr. Tumble impressions.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, "Stop! You're not allowed past the wall," and she's just completely ignored me. Like, it's fallen on deaf ears, and she's just got no awareness that I'm even shouting her. She bends down, she's picking up sticks, and it's just like I'm not even there. Luckily, we are fortunate that we've obviously got quite a lot of land on the farm, and the farm is safe. I call it Mads proof. If it's Mads proof, it's fine for every other child. And that's what I say about our alternative provision. Mad has tested everything that I do with every scenario, so your child is going to be safe.
I love that, though.
But it's the fact she leads them into rebellion as well. So it's like Mads has her own agenda with stuff. And if I want to lead a session that is tailored in one way, unfortunately, my daughter cannot be on my session, because it is her home and she will just do what she wants, and we call it the Mad agenda. Because she's not changing her mind. She's doing exactly what she wants. And that is the way it goes, just like Asda. She didn't want to be there. She was going to make it as difficult as possible. And that's just the way it is. But unfortunately, if she wanted her tea that night, we needed to go to Asda. I couldn't get a delivery. I completely forgot to order it, so it wasn't turning up. And no, everyone else can't starve just because Mad doesn't want to go to Asda.
Wow, that's just... Obviously, like, I've got, I'm a mum, I'm a grandparent, so I've kind of, experienced those times in supermarkets, which are absolute exhausting, and, you get really upset and cry and things like that. But for you to go through that every day is a daily thing, wherever you are, that's what you experience. It makes so much sense that you get to that stage where I've just got to let her do it, because otherwise I'm just not going to be able to cope.
You have to pick your battles.
Yeah.
And that's with anything. I've got 3 children. I've got a nearly 15-year-old, a nearly 13-year-old, and Mad, who's just turned 6.
Teenagers.
And my eldest one, he's dyslexic, but his needs aren't high. He gets on with school and everything else. But it's still different battles of different things. We had an incident where he was being cheeky on the bus. It's just different ages and different stages that you are navigating. My middle one, he is ADHD, and he loves being in school. He loves that routine and that structure, but he also burns out and he's overwhelmed. And he's, at the minute, since September, has had, how many did we say? Catch up my phone. 64, now call them reflections, but the detentions, and 2 suspensions for stupid things. Playing with a pencil, playing with a ruler, not listening, not having the right equipment, just needed a break from class, and he burns out. He comes home from school and he has to literally sit in the bathroom, doesn't need the toilet, but he will just sit there because that's his space to decompress for at least 45 minutes, and he will do that before he goes to school in the morning. And I've given him the option to homeschool, His sister does it, so if he wants to do it, he can do it. And
Yeah.
we end up doing it at least a couple of weeks a term when he's burnt out and he's hit a wall. But that's because he's that in-between child. He's not too extreme for mainstream, but is not conforming to everything that everyone else should be doing. So he fits mainstream, but needs that little bit of support. But trying to get them to see that is hard. And he was fine in primary school. We had such a support network around him. And I always say I will be so grateful to his teachers when we was in Skipton. He had a TA who got him. She absolutely got him. And she was training to be a teacher. And what I ended up doing is she was his TA, moved to being his teacher the year after, and then just moved her up with him. Because she was the only one that could just get him. Everyone else just saw him as naughty. She knew Zach inside out, and she worked with him, and I will forever be grateful to her, because it showed me that that support, once it's in place in a school, can work.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it's not always plain sailing.
No.
But it makes a difference. She knew that some days he would not do any work at all. Zach would not sit down. He was a Tasmanian devil. He hardly slept as well. And she couldn't get him to sit on the carpet and listen to story time. But if she gave him Lego to play with at the other side of the classroom, no questions asked, no, this is what you're doing. Zach just finds his thing and does it. He could recall the whole book better than the kids that had been sat on the carpet and was meant to be paying attention. Because it was about something that was interesting. I think it was something like a soldier's dog or something. And he recalled the whole thing. And then some days he'd do like a week's worth of work in a day. She worked to his strengths, and that's what it's about. And that's what I do with my kids. I work to their strengths, and I will not force them. Mads was having a bad day yesterday. There was no way that I was forcing her to do anything that she didn't want to do. It took me 80 minutes to get outside into my own garden to do my animals because she didn't want to put her socks on. And then she also didn't want to put her wellies on without her socks on. So there was just no negotiation on that. I just had to wait till she came round.
Yeah.
And it's picking your battles and just knowing not everyone has that flexibility. Not everyone can wait 80 minutes. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I will just bundle her in the car if I need to. But that's the way that we've evolved our journey, that we can work and support her. But yesterday I was exhausted, and then I still had to do that stuff that I'm saying, of that extra stuff that a SEN parent has to get on with. It got to, must have been 9:45 last night, and I was like, I need to read through this EHCP stuff of Mads. I had to do my own daughter's stuff of the edits that they're trying to do for the tribunal. And then I'm like, really, I should be doing some more grant writing. I should be doing this. I need to be doing that. I need to be prepping for tomorrow. But you're tired, you're exhausted, and what do you do?
You just fall, don't you? You just get to a stage. You don't even have that where you're slowing down, because what I'm hearing from you is that you don't even slow down, Keeley, because even, once you've got Mad settled, which is obviously extremely late and things like that, your brain's still going over time, because you've got all these other things that you need to do, and that's where your passion comes across. But I don't hear anywhere in your life, in your daily life, where you have that 5 minutes for you, where you just get a coffee. Maybe being on this podcast is give you that little bit of time, but this is your little bit of self-care.
Coffee and tea is,
you know what they are.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think at the minute my Instagram is literally always me with a cup of tea, because I am literally at the minute, I know that if I make a brew, and don't get me wrong, I might boil that kettle 10 times before I actually make the drink. I got a Ninja for, I think I'd actually burnt my last kettle out, so now the Ninja you can get it to stay at temperature.
That's so good.
Because I was literally boiling the kettle, and I'd be like, it was like, I call it the Dory effect, off of Nemo. I'm like, did I boil the kettle? And I'll real boil it again. And I've got to have that, obviously, I'm ADHD anyway, and I've got to have that visual that it tells me the temperature of what the kettle's at on the Ninja, that's where it is. And I've just started taking a moment. I make a brew and I just take a moment. And if I've got a brew in my hand, I'm not doing anything else. And I will drink it while it's still hot because I just need that minute to just breathe. And
Yeah.
we was talking about how poorly I'd been before Christmas and after Christmas, that I pushed and pushed and pushed through, and there is nothing worse. And I know this, I teach this stuff, I teach well-being, I teach burnout, I've taught all this kind of stuff, and I've been through breakdowns that, but you still push through. You've got children got
Yeah.
additional needs. I've got families that I see they're struggling, and I don't want them to be alone, that I support them and I push through and I take on extra loads, and I'm applying for grants at 11 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock in the morning because I know these parents need the support. But I also need to at least be paid 35 quid an hour so I can keep the lights on in my house. That I push myself beyond my limit. So I'd been poorly in October, and I just put it down to I had a sickness bug and too much information coming, but I was projectile vomiting and crippled over in pain to the point that I've got severe endometriosis and that I can cope with pain. And I was crippled over in a ball, and I was like, I am really ill. I don't feel well. And I was ringing my husband. I'm like, you're gonna have to come and look after Mads. I'm like, I need to go to bed. I really don't feel well. I was hot flushing, and when I'm talking projectile vomiting, I am not exaggerating. And then my eldest phoned me to say that he'd missed the bus from school. How you miss the bus from school when it picks you up at school and brings you home, I have no idea. But he'd missed the bus at school. I had to go pick him up, and I had to keep pulling the car over because I was projectile vomiting. And I was like, right, okay, I'm probably going to be worse tomorrow if this is a bug. So I'll just go pick up the animal feeds and I'll just go do this, then come home and rest. By that time, it was about 8 o'clock at night, and I felt like a little bit better. So I was like, oh, it's fine. Roll on 2 weeks later, I was like, I don't feel well. I was on a meeting, and luckily it was a meeting that was my team meeting. So I was a bit like, and I was supposed to have another meeting after that. And I'm stripping my clothes off, like my jumper and like anything that I could take off. I'm like, I'm really warm. I don't feel well. And I'm like, I've got to go. And I never just jump off a call. And I started projectile vomiting again. Was crippled in pain, and there was messaging me was my team. I'm like, what's wrong? I'm like, I really don't feel. There was like, go call an ambulance, go to A&E. I'm like, no, I'll be fine. Got to about 6 o'clock at night, and I said to the hubby, I said, you're gonna have to take me down to the hospital. I said, I really don't feel well. I need checking over. So I went down. Turns out I had severe pancreatitis. Not just a little bit. It was really bad. And I was like, oh, I was like this a couple of weeks ago. And they were like, well, looking at the numbers in your bloods, you've obviously had this before, and it's still there, and then it's amplified again. And I was like, all right then, can I go home? What can you give me? By this time, my friend Amy had turned up at the hospital, and she's like, you're not going anywhere. I'm like, yeah, but there's all this to do. And they was like, no, we're admitting you onto the ward. We need to put you on drips, and we need to give you this, this, and this. By that time, then, they'd already made a plan that there was going to... I had gallstones in the ducts, but the problem wasn't that was causing the pancreatitis and the liver problems. And they're like, do you drink? I'm like, I don't drink. I said, I think the last time I had a drink is I had a glass of wine in February. This was obviously now November that we was in. And they was like, have you had... I was like, oh, I had pancreatitis when I was like 16. I was really poorly. So then they started going through everything. Admitted to the wards. Turns out I then had problems with the gallbladder, the pancreas, the liver, the intestines, and everything else. So the planned surgery. I was basically in and out for the next couple of weeks at 4 or 5 days. Then I came home for a bit and then went in after having 2 days at home until they did the surgery. So they finally did all that. Then I had problems with acid reflux and my esophagus, and I was complaining that I had pains in my chest, and they was putting it all down to this. So they did further surgery. Said that they found problems, and I was like, right, okay, that's it, that's the end of it. Come the 9th of December, I was having some I was getting ready for the Christmas event, which was at the weekend. So I was having some more gravel delivered as you do. I decided to start doing farm renovations 4 days before an event. And I was like, I really don't feel well. I've got this pain in my chest again. Put it down. I was like, it must be just this esophagus stuff again. Not feeling well. And I nipped inside with Mads while we was waiting for the next delivery. Her dad was on a job call out, so he wasn't here. And we live in the middle of nowhere. There is no one else about to call if you're poorly. And I started to change Mads' bum, and I'm like, this really doesn't feel well. Like, my chest feels really tight. I felt really dizzy and spaced out. I had pains all across my legs. And I'd just got a smartwatch thing a week or so ago. And I was like, I'll just read my heart rate. It was 189, and it was saying that it had been like it for a good 45 minutes. I'm like, oh, actually, that's probably not right, that. So then you start Googling, which you're not supposed to do because it tells you all worst case scenarios. And I've never called an ambulance for myself in my life. I will literally quite happily drive to the hospital and sit and wait, which is what I did with the pancreatitis. I'll wait till everything's sorted and then I'll go to the hospital. And I had to phone her dad and say, right, not to panic you, but I really need you to come back and look after Mads because I'm going to have to phone an ambulance. So I phoned the ambulance and I'm on the phone telling them. And they're a bit like, all right, okay, yeah, we'll get someone to you as soon as we can. And I'm like, no, you don't quite understand. I've been waiting like nearly 40 minutes before I phoned you. And this is quite serious. I said, I might not sound really panicked and alarmed. I said, but I'm just that kind of person. I said, it's quite bad. I said, I'm really not feeling well. So I was like, okay, well, we'll call you back in like 15 minutes and check on you if the ambulance isn't there. 10 minutes later, it's getting worse. So I phoned them back and she's on the call. She's like, right, we've increased it to a Cat 1. We'll have someone there as soon as possible. It took an hour for the ambulance to come.
Oh my God.
First response got here and I'm literally sat on the floor in my kitchen begging them to get here. And it's in that moment that you realise just how vulnerable you are.
Yeah.
If Anthony hadn't have been working for himself and could have come back and was only 15 minutes away, if he'd have been an hour away, if heart problems isn't just your heart stopping or a heart attack, your heart running at that amount of pressure constantly for that amount of time is serious. And I didn't know that. I was just a bit like, people just have a heart attack and what would have happened? Maddie's non-verbal. She doesn't have the awareness to ring for an ambulance. She doesn't have the awareness to ring her dad. She doesn't have the awareness to look after herself. What happens if I'd have been on the floor, God forbid, dead, for an hour before someone found her, or 4 or 5 hours before the boys got home from school? What would have happened? She wouldn't have known. She'd have just stepped over me and tried to eat what she could out of the cupboards or whatever else until she got home, until someone else got there. She'd have trashed the house and everything else. But that is the reality for some parents, that who is there to support the child?
Yeah.
If they don't have the understanding, if they don't have anyone else. And it's all those things that then start running through your head, which obviously they're running through my head. Well, obviously my heart's already going. Quite fortunately, they said to me, do you have any strong? So I was like, I've got some morphine still left, some Oromorph from being really poorly, which I was still taking. They was like, you need to take some of that. We need to try and relax your body as much as possible. By the time the paramedics got here, they had the cardiac team waiting for us when we got to the hospital. And it was serious. And nothing bothered me, like the pancreatitis, surgeries, everything like that. Nothing really bothered me. I've been through hemorrhaging in childbirth, everything else. The only time that I've ever felt that this could be the end was I hemorrhaged with Mad, like really bad, and they had to resuscitate and everything else. But at that point, I felt vulnerable. I felt so like this could have very nearly been the end. And I think that was the process over the next week of being in hospital. They kept on saying to me, this is serious. We don't know what caused it. We don't know why it's happened. We don't know if it's going to happen again. And they had me fully hooked up to the ECG machines constantly. And I think the biggest thing for me was there were so many old people on the cardiac ward, or elderly people, should I say. And they wouldn't let me go to the toilet. They made me use a commode. And for me, that was so like, no, I'm only just turned 35. I can go to the toilet. And they was like, you don't understand how poorly you are. You need to be hooked up to that machine so that if something happens, we can be there instantly. And I was just like, I was mortified that I had to go to the toilet in the cubicle, like where I was sleeping. But it wasn't until the reality checked in that I'd been in resus with them pumping into me as much of stuff as they could to try and regulate my heart, because no matter what they was trying wasn't working, and they had to get me onto the cardiac wards. At 35, just turned 35, I was like 2 weeks after my 35th birthday. You're sat there thinking, I nearly didn't see tomorrow. I nearly didn't tell my kids that I loved them again. I nearly didn't even, the boys went to school and I'd barely said goodbye to them as they just go out of the door as an everyday thing. And that hit me hard, and it took
Yeah.
so much to get through. But the other thing was, they couldn't come and see me in the hospital. So, because Mad's needs are so high, and obviously there's people there that are really poorly, they couldn't bring her onto the ward. We didn't have any other family down here, and no one that understands Mad's needs to look after her, that I was just there on my own. Everyone else has got people visiting them and coming to see them and check on them. Don't get me wrong, I had so many people that I've created connections with and friendships and everything else that we've made in Cornwall. But all I wanted was my husband to come and give me a hug and be able to hug my kids.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see anyone else in that moment. I just felt so vulnerable that I was just sat there, well, laid there, and I still had no clear answers whether I was going to make it to go home. They just had to get the meds right and get that amount of drips and everything else into me and the running ECG so that they had a clear picture of what they could do to support. But it was then, we'll go home, and if you have any change or anything happens, ring 999 straight away, and this is the medication you have to take, and this is the stuff that you need to do. And you just feel like, well, what happens if this happens? When's it going to happen? And it just caused me so much anxiety, because obviously my neurodiverse brain needed answers. I needed to know, when would it happen again? What would trigger it? What would start? How could I put things in place to prevent being in a situation that my daughter might have to witness, or no one else will be around? So I didn't drive. I wouldn't go anywhere. I didn't want anybody not to be in the house with me. And it was just, it took 2 months nearly before, well, a month and a bit, before I'd even be left for 10 minutes for Anthony to go work on the farm to do stuff, for me to be left with Mad, because of that fear of, is something going to happen? And they've redone my meds, they've had to add to my meds, and obviously I've had the MRIs and stuff, and now I'm not constantly watching my watch, watching for when it comes in and when it dips. But it's just making sure that, what's your backup plan? If something happens to you or there's a situation, what have you got in place to make sure that your child's supported? That someone knows their needs so that they don't have to call social services to come and take care of them and a stranger look after them. Do you have someone that you can call? Even if it's someone that you've met through like the farming mother community, someone that actually understands your child, that can help them while you're poorly.
That's so much for you to have had to experience. And I mean, you've got such a strength, Keeley, by everything else that you've experienced, and the fact that you just keep going and keep going. And that was what happened to you, was horrific, but that was your body telling you to slow down, wasn't it, really?
Because I hadn't listened.
Yeah.
I pushed and pushed and pushed my luck, and it wanted to go, no, you need to listen, and you need to listen now.
Would you say then that anything's changed for you? Obviously, nothing's changed as in what your expectations, how your life is, because of having SEND children. The work you do is all around SEND support, isn't it, for families and children and things. And so since you had this huge scare, because you did eventually, didn't you? There was that realization, actually. Then what if questions came up for you, and being a therapist, what I'm saying.
What happens if I'm not around? Who's going to advocate and support? Who's going to be there for my children? Obviously their dad's there, but his typical mentality is he wouldn't have battled and advocated for the HCP. He'd have just gone, just pay for it. Just literally, the support that she needs, we'll deliver her education, we'll just pay for it. And he still says it now. He understands the work that I do. He sees the work that I do every day with families that I work with, and he understands that not everyone has that option to just pay for it. But he would rather find the money than put up with this headache and just be like, he's like, why? What is the point in battling it? And that's the hard thing, isn't it? I
Yeah.
see it day in, day out of the support that's needed, and those that aren't that fortunate to just pay for it. We're not well off, but my husband's very much for a quiet life. So he does not want to be battling the LA. But I keep explaining to him we will not be around forever. Touch wood, I will live to see my grandchildren, maybe great grandchildren. But Mads is always going to need support. So what is going to be in place for her for the rest of her life? And that's why I advocate for families to get their wills in place. Always
Yeah.
have life insurance. Always make sure that that life insurance in your will states that so and so needs X, Y, and Z support for X, Y, and Z years, and this is how it should be implemented, and have someone oversee that. Because who else is going to be there and support and advocate for your child as much as you would?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think that's the thing that hit me the hardest. I love all three of my children, like, to death. Like, they are my world. But I know that the one that would need more support would be Mads. And would she even remember me? Would she even understand how much I loved her? Because we don't, I tell her I love her, but she has no understanding. Or I don't know, she's non-verbal. She might in 10 years' time tell me I understood that you hugged me and you loved me and this, that, and the other. But that was the hardest, I think that was one of the hardest things, is would she actually know that I loved her if I'd have passed away just before Christmas?
Yeah.
And I
And
think,
she would have, but it's how she would have expressed that as well.
yeah, and that's the thing is, so I was pushing for some more funding for parental support because the load that parents take, I can't say for definite, but there's nothing to say that all the extra pressure that I have of taking care for Mad is what's caused my heart to be under more stress.
Possibly. Yeah.
The amount of anxiety and parents that are on antidepressants because their child has additional needs and they're coping and they're battling is high.
Yeah.
Who is there for them parents? Who is giving them support? How many parents do what I do and just go, I'm fine, I just get on with it?
And I
But
heard you say the words, I'm fine.
I'm fine. I'm fine, I just get on with it. And yeah, you get on with it because you have to, because
Yeah.
there is no other choice. But what are you holding on to within your body, which we know this is therapists, and
Absolutely.
mentally, that at what point does it come that you're not fine, that it is too much?
It's the
And
constant high levels of cortisol as well, isn't it?
that's the thing. Send parents. I can't remember where I saw the article. It was years ago. It was before I even had Mad. Was compared to soldiers being in the battlefield in Afghanistan. You are on that much of constant high alert and adrenaline that your body is constantly in fight or flight.
Yeah.
You are on edge, you are constantly watching, you are constantly advocating, you are constantly fighting, that you are in fight or flight constantly. Your body does not come down. And it's the same as then, like a soldier in the battlefield, literally just being on edge watching. And that's what it's like pretty much from the minute that Mads gets up in the morning to the minute she falls asleep. And even then, when she falls asleep, you're listening out for her to wake up or anything else, that you are in fight or flight constantly. So your body is not dropping down into the state of rest for it to repair itself to be able to get through.
Yeah.
And so many parents just need that breather. And at the minute, we're trying to get some more funding towards parents just being able to have. I know not everybody can take a day out, but even just to have 2-3 hours where they can come, or some sessions where we've got one next Thursday. We're going to the local Heligan Gardens. So it's not delivery on site. We're going out and it's walking in nature in the woodland. The kids can go off and play, but it's as many families as we can get there that I've funded, that if you need to go to the toilet, there's 7 or 8 other families that are there
Yeah.
to watch your child, so you're not having to drag them so you can go to the toilet. Or if you just need to have another parent to chat with, there's 6 or 7 other parents watching them all play on the climbing frame. Or we're walking and you can just take a moment just to breathe while someone else has got eyes on your kid. That it's not me there delivering as the family mother. We're there as parents supporting other parents together. And it's things like that that make a difference. It's
Definitely
like,
so.
I haven't took Mad to Helligan and it's literally 7 minutes up the road. It's such an amazing place. I haven't took her since last year on my own because of how much she bolts.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to navigate and chase her and everything else is a handful. But I know for a fact that, like, I'm taking my boys with me. Then we've got some of the kids that really like running, and what we're going to do is we're going to tag team, and you run over there and you run over there, and it's that energy that everybody gets their energy out and gets to do stuff, and we work together as a team so that we can all have a day out as something we wouldn't normally be able to manage by ourselves, and it's that coming together. The whole family mother community isn't just about me going, right, I'm delivering sessions and this is what I'm doing. I'm the person that's in charge. I'm the person that knows this. It's, we all share our experiences and support. Yes, I'm there as Keeley, the professional, the family mother, delivering the alternative provisions, but I'm also there as the parent, and I always keep parents at my sessions because you know your child best. And working together and supporting each other is the key. And I think the more support that we can have around for families helps them, even if they just come out of fight or flight for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like when I said I make a brew and I just stand there, I don't care if Mad's just trash in the other room, and I'll deal with that in 5-10 minutes. But I can see her, she's not hurting herself, she's just throwing her soft play everywhere and emptying every box of toys out. But I've let go of the expectation that my house is going to be nice and tidy. It'll be nice and tidy when Mad finally falls asleep and I run round and tidy it all up, and I can sit there with a brew for half an hour. Even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I will sit there with a brew and go, yes, my house is tidy. But it's that, right, okay, I'll deal with that in a moment. I just need to just lower those levels so that I can just breathe and just deal with it. And it's never a good day or a bad day, it's just moment by moment. Yesterday I had loads of rubbish moments, but I had a few glimmers of fun and stuff that I liked and enjoyed as well. And other times there's loads of amazing moments with just a couple of challenging ones in between. Like sprinkling rice around my dining room like it's confetti, or emptying the dog bowls out, or emptying the dog's water bowl out to use as a muddy puddle. But that's just where it is, and you roll with it. And once you learn to just accept that it's just going to happen and you can't fight it. I draw the line at, she went through the phase of, she's obviously still in nappies, of taking what was out of her nappy, and I draw the line there. There's certain things I can deal with and certain things I can't deal with. Dog stick and that is just, I can't. I can muck out a stable that's disgusting, but stuff like that, it's just, I draw the line, and it's just child in the shower. Even if you don't like the shower and you're going to squeak down,
You're
that
going
is
in.
better than dealing with that. And don't get me wrong, she was about 1.5, and she went through a phase where every time the dog did something, I'd tidy the courtyard, and the dog would only go to the toilet in the courtyard. It wouldn't go out to the toilet when it was on the farm or having a walk or whatever. And I would literally, there'd be nothing there. Mad would start playing. I'd turn around, the dog would do something, and Mad would just grab it, and I was just like, and I'd just hose pipe her. Just hose pipe her. Washing up liquid, hose pipe, and then go take her in the shower, because that is not coming through my house. That is not coming through my house. So it's just, sometimes you've got to laugh else you cry. And don't get me wrong, I have times where I cry, like in Asda. But it's just, it is hard, but we all have moments that are hard, and you just have to find those people around you that understand. Find your people and get help. It is not shameful to say I'm struggling. God, no. That's one of the things I need to say this. I share on social media, I share the rubbish moments, the hard moments, the challenging moments, and the amount of messages that I get going, do you know something? I actually feel better that I look up to and follow, goes, I struggle with this. And I'm like, well, of course I do. I'm a SEND parent who wouldn't, struggle with this. They're like, yeah, but most people wouldn't admit that they struggle with that. Most people wouldn't say, oh, yeah, I find this hard. I'm like, just because I teach this or do this or advocate for this does not mean to say I don't find it hard. And that's the thing. Own it. Tell people you find it hard. No one's got everything together. It's I have things that my kids are naughty, my kids are cheeky, Mads runs off in the woods or decides to throw dog water balls over. Just because I support however many children doesn't mean to say mine don't do it. I've been smacked in the face on sessions by other people's children, and the parents are literally so distraught and trying to apologise. I'm like, my daughter does this to me. I don't expect any different from a child that's got similar needs for it not to happen. If it didn't happen, I'd be worried that there was masking at my sessions. And I don't want them to mask. I want them to feel like they can express. Because that's what you put up with at home. I bet normally you'd go somewhere and then you'd get in the car and you'd get that. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, and it happened here. So which means they felt safe enough to do it. I said, that's progress. And that's the difference. If it happens here, it means I'm doing my job properly.
I love that, Keeley, because that's just, they're the goosebumps moments for me, because obviously, like, you know, we both work with families. Yours is all sen, mine's a lot of sen. It's coming through so much more. And you just see them parents, don't you, at desperation. It's like, please help my child.
It's
you
not
know,
just the child, though, it's them.
Exactly.
It's a whole
and
family
I get
ethos.
that a lot. Yeah.
It's a whole family ethos, and that's why one of the main reasons I make parents stay. One, they either get support and get chatting to another parent and sit and have a brew, or two, they notice those challenging moments and pick up some little golden nuggets of how I approach that situation.
Beautiful.
Not that I did it right and they did it wrong, but it's a different perspective. Or they'll say, oh, they don't normally engage with someone like that. What did you do differently? I went, what did you notice? There's like, you just didn't have any expectations of them. There you go.
Yeah, I love that.
I do
wish sometimes that I was a family therapist, because the amount of support that I could offer just from the I started off working in nurseries umpteen years ago. Can't remember how many.
How are you not a family therapist? How
Haven't
many times
done
do you listen? No, you
I
don't
am
have
a
to have
family
that
therapist without the qualification.
and that the life experience and the support you give is just as valuable. I said something the other day that I was doing something and I was like, and I was doing it all without the PhD, and someone went, yeah, but life experience is more valuable than a PhD. And I was like, do you know something? I when I was at school, I wanted to train as a social worker for the police force. And long story short, I landed a really good job and I went down the road of paid employment. I did my social care qualification but never went into anything. It's come full circle. I went into accounts. I was an accountant. I was service team manager for Mercedes at 17 and went into accounts. I then started to do, while I was still working in accounts, did my qualifications in wellbeing and support, which then led into doing more work and mental health work with women, which then led into working with their children, which then it turned out that a lot of the women I was working with were neurodiverse, which then fed into, oh, well, while you're doing this, can you support my child? And then that's where the farming mother evolved. And I'm right here doing the stuff that I'd have been training to do as a social worker.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of the work that it took me ages to accept that transferable skills actually existed. But when I did, that very much in my own way. And that's why I work with children. A lot of it is because of obviously that early support and being able to make that difference, you know, and this isn't about me, so I'm not going to go over much into me, but just starting in nurseries, supporting parents, when they were needing it a lot, and then obviously seeing the children and the development as well. So I started as a nursery nurse, and then now I'm a counsellor, a children's creative counsellor, and obviously the work I do, it's there. However, I don't know, 30 odd years later, and it's there, and it means a lot, doesn't it, when we can actually look back where we started to where we are now, and that kind of realisation that I always believe now that I was meant to do this. And hearing your story as well, Keeley, I totally believe the same for you.
Someone said to me the other week that I was given MADS for a reason. You're only given what you can cope with, and don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
God, we do question that sometimes.
I
We
bet you do.
question, like,
But
can I really get through this? And we all do. We all have challenging moments, and that's why a lot of people struggle with their mental health.
yeah,
But what I have been at breaking point where I thought I couldn't go on anymore, and I look at Mads now, 6 years later, and think, where would she have been if at that point after I had her, I hadn't have put one foot in front of the other and thought, do you know what, I need to keep going. And where would she have been if I'd have given up on me
yeah,
and thought that they was better off without me? Because no one can do what you do better than you do. There's no other person that can fight and advocate for your child as much as you can. And I don't care what, going back to my LA things, what you're told that you are wrong. Trust your instincts and your judgment and get the support to make sure you put stuff in place for you and your child. No questions asked. I don't care what anyone else tells you. Trust your instincts and find the support. Not going with a diagnosis, because diagnosis takes so long. If you're seeing those things in your child, whether it's social or emotional, mental health needs, what do they need support with? Find the resources, find the tools, and support them with it. If they're showing traits of autism or ADHD, you don't need a diagnosis, you need the support in place. So what OT, you can follow so many amazing OTs, and I'm sure you've got loads of people that you can share. What can Sam offer that would support my child? What, it's putting the support in place. It's not what the diagnosis is, it's what support do they need to move them forward or to help
absolutely.
them cope. The diagnosis means nothing, it's a piece of paper. So it's about
Yeah,
finding the support and putting it in place. Same as when I was struggling with the anxiety after the heart stuff. What did I need to get through that? And funny thing was, it was one of those TikTok, Instagram reels that says, that's a little bit sweary, that tells you to get up and keep on going kind of thing, that I needed to listen to on a morning. And it was the fact that I do a little 5-minute workout, which is as much as my dodgy heart can contemplate, listening to a wellbeing podcast, even if it's just 5 minutes that I just listen to that while Mad's eating a breakfast while I'm watching her, that just gives me that headspace before I even process anything else. I've stopped getting up and reading everyone's million messages of what
yeah,
they need before I've given me what I need. Don't get me wrong, I've still got mad stuff to do and it can be whatever time, but I know before I put my head into other people's support that they need, that I just need to have that 5-10 minutes with my headphones in, telling me that I need to take care. It's stuff that I know, stuff that I teach, but I just need to hear it in my ears.
yep,
Just take a breath, just do this. The little meditation things that annoy me on my watch that goes, breathe in. I'm like, I know how to breathe, but it just, and if I don't complete my circles, it says I haven't completed my circle. So that ADHD thing in me is like, I need to complete my circle. Just those little things that make the difference. And it's just, listen to podcasts like this. It's real lived experience. Forget all the, you can't see it now because I've moved my screen after putting it on charge, all the books of the support that you need and 10 million how to get an EHCP or
yeah.
ADHD wired
Overwhelming.
brains and everything else. Yeah, that's overwhelming. That just what snippets can you think? We're busy. What can you stick in your ears for 5 minutes? What can talk to you? I ask my watch to tell me stuff now, and it's just those things that just do it. Just do those little bits of pieces and take that support and find those tools. And if you can't afford things, there's so many free things out there. Like you'll have freebies that you put out for support of mailing list or anything like that. God, the amount of freebies that was on mine. Just pick it, mess it. You want to come down and see what the family mother's doing? We have glamping for £50 per night per family. It's ridiculous. All your bedding's there, all your pots and pans. You literally have to turn up with your clothes and a little bit of food.
Why have I not come down with my grandsons?
Either stay in the bell tent, or we've got the shepherd's hut this year, and literally the amount of families that just come and just switch off, and sometimes don't even leave the farm. The beach is literally a 2-minute walk, And sometimes they just won't even leave the farm and they just stay here because they know it's safe and they can just breathe and the kids can just run wild and they can just have a cup of tea without worrying. And it's like, and the kids will potter around and feed the animals with me and they're just like, I just feel like I can breathe. I'm like, that is what it's all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that brings me to one of my favourite books, absolutely, even from nurseries, but all through the years, 5 Minutes Peace, because it's just...
Oh, is that the elephants?
Oh,
Yeah. I got that
yeah,
from
it's
my
one
when
of
she was
my,
little.
yeah, 5 Minutes Peace, just, and even just being able to think of 5 Minutes Peace is just, it's such a big thing into it. So like what you've just said and everything, it just makes so much sense. I could speak to you all night, Keeley. I really could. You've just got so much to say, but that in a real beautiful and understanding of other people's needs, but also what you need as a parent, as a professional, as a businesswoman, as Keeley as well, which there's tiny little snippets of that comes through and everything, but just so wonderful. So the next part of it is about 3 tips. Do you have 3 tips to share?
Make a brew. I don't care whether it's a good moment, a bad moment, and you just need 5 minutes, make a brew. As long as your kids are safe, they can't set themselves on fire or cut themselves with a knife, they are fine for 5 minutes. You can see them and just sit there with a brew. If you need some free resources, send me a message and I will give you some top tip things that your kids can do while you sit. I've got some 5 minute piece things that your kids can do while you have a brew. Find your tribe. Find people that actually understand. There is no point being surrounded by people that don't have children that have got additional needs or don't have a condition or anything else because they will not understand. And I've got family members that, with all the will in the world, just do not understand Mad's needs and never will. And that's just the way it is, unfortunately. And I can have more meaningful and understanding conversations with a stranger that I've just met at an event. But they understand, and that's the difference. Someone that understands is the key, because otherwise you're explaining yourself just like you are to every other professional time and time again with still no understanding. And third is forget the judgment. Create yourself a little bubble. Like literally just sit there and imagine you're putting a bubble, blowing a bubble around you. And just be in your bubble. Those days where you're in Asda and it's wild and everything else, don't care what anyone else says. It's a moment in time for them. You've been juggling it all day, all week, God knows how many years. As long as your child isn't harming anyone, even if they throw a tiny little toy at them, as long as it doesn't hurt them, it's fine. And just be in your little bubble. And when it gets really hard, literally, do you know that thing that you used to do when you was a kid and you'd put your fingers in your ears and go la 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 la? Just imagine you just doing that. Even when your kid's screaming and it's literally like, as long as they're not hurting themselves and you can just keep pushing them around in the trolley, just like literally like la 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 la, and just walk around in your bubble, because you've just got to get through that moment. And once you're through that moment, you're on to the next, whether it's good or bad, but it's just moment by moment.
Thank you. They're amazing tips, and I would definitely recommend you to reach out to Keeley if you feel that that you need that support, and if you feel quite isolated as well, because she's got so many ways that could be beneficial to you, even if it's like just the resources, just a chat, or just that that finding how to have that space for yourself, which is really important. And it's that it's about putting the oxygen mask on yourself. And I know for a lot of you parents that will probably be listening to this, where there are them SEND needs, that oxygen mask is still crucial, because listening to Keeley's story today about how her health just got not the better of her, but it just deteriorated so quickly over time because she'd just got to that burnout stage. It's so important.
Don't ignore those niggling signs. We trust our instincts for our children. Trust them for yourself. Your body is telling you something for a reason. If you haven't read the book, The Body Keeps a Score, it really, really does. And it will come back to bite you on the bum if you do not listen. Bigger, better, and harder. So listen, take care of yourself. Even if it means that if you don't have anyone around you to help look after your child that you trust to have them overnight or anything, can someone come and play with them in the living room while you literally doze on the sofa for 5 minutes? That kind of thing. There's always ways around things to just have support. One thing I will shout out is Home Start. Wherever you are in the UK, there's a Home Start. They have amazing volunteers that will come into your home and help, or they have resources and support. So even if you don't want to get support from me through the Farming Mother, whether following content, reaching out for support, coming to the farm, anything like that, Home Start are UK wide, and they are amazing. And I say that I am a trustee for Home Start Kerno, but that's because I'm passionate about the support. I don't give my support to organisations lightly. But Home Start is wherever you are in the UK, they're there. You've got amazing connections like Sam. There's other amazing support resources around there. If you speak to Early Help Hub or your local council, there's usually a list of services. There's so many free things on there as well that you can go to and get support. You don't have to do it alone.
No, we've got Mindmate in Leeds as well, which is a huge hub for a lot of support. And it's always growing because there's so many more families that need that support. So absolutely, like Keeley said, there is support all around the UK, wherever you are. And sometimes it is just about knowing who to speak to.
And if you ever struggle to find someone, drop me a message, and I am like a little detective. I will find out where the support is for you. Good help with my boyfriend. Well, boyfriends, when my kids get girlfriends. Probably like through social media. I'm very good at pinning down where the support is, and instead of signposting you, I will find where the support is and get you a direct link to that person. I am very persistent, so if you are struggling to find the support, reach out, tell me where you are, and I will find it.
Amazing. So on that note, where can people find you, Keeley?
If you search the Farming Mother anywhere, type it into Google, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Was just saying Sharon, my lovely PR lady, does Twitter because I have too much to say, so I can't fit it into that little box. If you search the Farming Mother, I will come up across all socials. I do a lot of work in person in Cornwall, online across the UK and beyond, and also helping and support other organisations around the UK and beyond as well. And we're here to support you, the parents and the children. If you go to our website, www.thefarmingmother.co.uk, I'll make sure I get that right. There is parent support, child support, and then there's a contact form. If you fill in the contact form with any information of support that you need, whether it's call me, chat, WhatsApp, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z, I will respond. It goes straight through. 9 times out of 10, if I'm awake, I will respond. I know boundaries and all that, but if you put urgent, then I'm usually there straight away. Unless Mad does decide to sleep, then I may respond as soon as I wake up. But yeah, we're always there. There's always someone to support you. I've got so much content and freebies. We're in the middle of creating a new portal, which will be able to access our online schooling and things as well, and parent support. And we have a free support session once a month online that you can come pick my brains, just get support, guidance, or ask me about EHCPs and tribunals and all that jazz as well. That's just so that I can bring everybody together and help as many people in one place rather than all the one-to-one calls. So check that out. That should be on the website. Amanda, my office manager, does all that for me because I don't have the time to sit at the computer enough. So I deliver all the stuff and she puts everything in one place so you can find it. So she's very good. There's also a burnt out parents quiz on there as well. That's attached to my social media as well and on the website. So if you go through that, answer some questions, it'll tell you how burnt out you are, and then tell you what support I can give you for free, or offer you a chat as well. So feel free to check those out.
Wonderful. All Keeley's links where you can find her, and some of the resources she's talked about will be in the show notes as well. So just a finishing touch, where do you see it all going for you?
Oh, that's the big
I know
question.
it's a huge question.
I know where I want to be. I just need more funds. So at the moment, like I said, we offer the glamping and the shepherd's hut holiday. We've got a full barn house that's got planning permission for renovation, so we'll be offering full respite care. We'll have 2 fully self-efficient 3-bedroom properties that will be for respite for families to come and stay. I'm hoping we can get funding so that that's completely funded for 52 weeks of the year, so families can come, have support on hand, or just take a break if they need it. We have the education and wellbeing hub here that we already use, and I deliver sessions, but we've got another brick building that I'm trying to get funding that we can then bring in all these waiting resources of OTs and speech and language and other amazing services, like I said, like Home Start and that. So they're all here delivering on site. Even if parents only get access to snippets once a month, it's better than a 1 year or 2 year waiting list.
Yeah.
They'll always have access to it. And we're in the process of going fully Ofsted registered. So my vision is that we're already in a registered alternative provision, that we will be a registered alternative school, that is not just a school, it's also the wellbeing and support side of it as well for parents and children. And yeah, it's a big bold move, but the way the education system's going at the moment is they're trying to push that home education side out of it, and there's a reason families home educate, and I'm not willing for that space to be taken away from them. So we are, like I said, a registered alternative provision. Most of those will be going Ofsted registered anyway, because that's just the rulings, and it's just another hoop to jump through. But we've got all our paperwork in, and we've got no concerns. But it means that we can then access more funding. So those younger children, my little minis that I call them, how they can access their 30 hours free funding. They'll be able to access it on the farm, and then we'll evolve. Obviously, Mads is ever evolving. She should be year 1, year 2 now. So she's going to be doing her whole education. We call it mummy school. It's obviously a farming mother school, but it's mummy school to her. And we want that for everyone. We want everyone to be able to access that, regardless of funding at the minute. We just have to apply for grants constantly. And I want that continuation of funding, that if we're a registered school, we obviously have that enrolment process and the funding. But it's a big, bold move. I'm not a head teacher, I'm not a teacher, but we'll get there. Lots of development, lots of things that need to be done to put in place. But we're evolving. We've grown so much in the last 12 months. It's ridiculous. It's scary. It's amazing. But I have big plans, and we're going. And the way that I'm pushing it is that all the support that parents need, that they're begging for and they're waiting for, is on hand. They're not having to reach out and find it. It's here, and everything's under one roof that they can access here.
Wow, amazing. It just sounds
big
incredible.
plans. I just need a millionaire to fund it.
There might be one waiting around the corner.
Hopefully. Manifesting it.
Manifest it, absolutely. Thank you. Just want to say thank you, Keeley, for coming on today and just sharing everything, because it's just been so wonderful. And I know that there will be those families that need to reach out and just have that support. So thank you so much for joining me today.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching today. You can catch this episode and my other ones on Spotify and YouTube. And I will be back with another episode soon. See you all for now. Bye.